questions. Raise your hand if you have an account in any of these social networking sites: Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram. Now raise your hand if you've ever been criticized or told that it was a waste of time for having a social media account. Okay, thank you. So my proposition today is going to be on social networking and how, contrary to many beliefs and people's opinion, has helped this generation with many things that previous generations have struggled with. For my first point, is going to be on how social networking sites help students do better at school. And my second point is on how being part of a social networking site can increase a person's quality of life and reduce the risk of health problems. And my last point is on how social networking sites help people who are socially isolated or shy connect with other people. For my first point on how they help them do better at school, many college students or any students at all that change their environment and go to new schools outside of their usual home struggle to make friends and integrate into the college or the school society, while social networking helps them make new friends and makes it easier for them to talk about their school assignments and discuss educational issues and educational topics instead of having to meet up with their study group and scheduling a time that fits with everyone. They can just go online and talk to each other. And that way it would be there would be a less likely for them to fail, and it would be better for them to, it would be good for them to do. It would help them do better at school. My next point is on how it can increase a person's quality of life and reduce the risk of health problems. Let's say a person is struggling with depression or personal issues and don't have a lot of people to talk to. They can go on the social media website, and there's many social groups online that can help them, give them advice, and provide a safe space for them to talk about their feelings and issues. Also, people online post about their exercises and diets and show how certain diets or exercises help them become more healthy and more fit, and people can be encouraged by that and think that they can do the same thing. Although they can go out into the real world, talk to other people about their issues and their diets, some people are shy and would much rather talk through a screen because they're not so extroverted. Which brings me to my next point on how social networking sites help people who are isolated or shy connect with other people. For some people, it would be easier for them to talk online than to talk in person because they just feel more comfortable. And online education and social media and courses allow shy students to take their time they need to process the interaction and pace themselves according to their emotional response before participating. Using websites like Twitter or just through email, students that are too embarrassed or uncomfortable to ask teachers questions in a regular class environment can use those websites to send in questions to them. According to commonsensemedia.org, more than 25% of teens report that social networking makes them feel less shy, 28% report feeling more outgoing, and 20% report feeling more confident. So to summarize, like many generations have struggled with all of these points that I've made, but with this generation, social networking helped them cope with those issues. Thank
Well, the proposition's labeled, but there's a lot of ambiguity as to exactly what it's saying. I think it gets better and clearer with the secondary points being labeled than it was in the proposition itself. You did lay out the contents of the speech at the beginning, so I think it's pretty easy to follow what you're talking about. I think you could do a little bit more to demonstrate that there's a controversy on this by pointing out some of the criticisms that are made of social media and networking as a way of justifying the position that you are taking. On the supporting structure, like I said before, you did a good job identifying what those supporting points were going to be and labeling them as you got to those particular points. There's usually a nice explanation on each of the points. Unfortunately, most of the time that's all we get is the explanation on those points. On the first point, everything is asserted except for a hypothetical example. On the second point, we have pretty much the same thing. Everything is mostly asserted with some hypothetical examples about exercise or diet things that people might get. The third point was the only place where I heard any source site being presented, and that's where you had the statistical information. And again, it's some self-reported data about how students feel concerning their outreach or ability to connect with others. I thought that that was pretty reasonable information, but that's the only place where I got any data that you could say was substantive at this particular point. So I think the biggest problem here is a lack of development of the evidence that you need to prove your particular point. The presentation is a little problematic. You have a tendency to look down quite a bit, and I get the impression that you're reading. But like I said, I think it's an interesting topic and you've got a good perspective on it, but I think you need to develop a lot more proof for your points. All right, thank you.